Frontier! Oh my god, it's like Sneef, but not supercharged. Come on. You ain't gotta go that slow. It's like it rains a little bit and Maryland drivers just forget how to drive. Gas time. Give me the key. Thank you. So, in case you couldn't tell, I have commandeered an R3 from a friend. And today, we're just going to be riding it around a little bit, just for fun. Just did a bunch of recall work on it, because hadn't gotten that done. And it was free. And I work as a motorcycle mechanic now, so I was able to do the recall work for my friend, which was nice. It's slow, but it's fun. I really like the way that it handles. Because, you know, it's only a 300, so it, you know, it kind of handles like the RZ, but, you know, it's, granted it's slower than the RZ, because, you know, the RZ is a 2-stroke. But, no, it's still a really fun bike, but it's no RZ. I miss that RZ. I wish I had that thing back. I'm also excited to do a video on my fiance's Miata, because she's got a little NA Miata that is currently in the shop for some performance mods, because we blew the engine up trying to tune it. You know, we wanted pops and bangs, so, you know, we tuned pops and bangs, and then burnt valve, and that was a whole ordeal. So I was like, I'm not even gonna worry about that. Oh, it's the same Frontier from earlier. But I was like, I'm not even gonna worry about that. Like, I was working on my friend's Miata. My friend also has an NA Miata. His is from 96. Hers is from 97. And I was doing a head gasket on it, so I had the head all the way off and all that fun stuff. Just, you know, I was like, I can't be working on two of these things at the same time. I will get way too overwhelmed. And I got overwhelmed with just the one car, so, yeah, I'm still technically working on and off on the one Miata, on my friend's Miata. I think he's actually getting the head back from the machine shop today, because it burnt a valve, and so we took it to a machine shop, and it had also cracked the head. So I think somebody was doing some tuning in there before we got to it, because the car, basically, long story short, this car that that my friend had bought, had another engine put into it, and I suspect that the engine that was going into it was one that was tuned and in a performance-built Miata, because somebody had done some. So I think it's 95 or 96 and on for the 1.8s had they had just oil pressure switches, not actual sending units. So somebody had taken out the switch and just put the sending unit in. And I would assume that on whatever car that they pulled the engine from to put it in my friend's Miata, they must have also upgraded the dash, and then they just didn't upgrade the dash on my friend's Miata, because when I went to start it, it essentially appeared like there was no oil pressure because the sending unit, you know, operates differently than the switch. And so I was like, that's not good. You might have a blown up engine. Thankfully he didn't. Thankfully it was just that sending unit. And then I drove the car for, I don't know, probably 10 miles, and it blew a head gasket. And so I tore the engine all apart, and it also had a burnt valve. So my best guess is that that engine came out of a tuned car and was put into my friend's Miata. Because we bought the car knowing that it had an aftermarket, or not an aftermarket, but a different engine than the one that came with the car. So, yeah. But, I mean, he can probably still get a pretty decent chunk of change out of just the car if he really wanted to. Because Miatas, NA Miatas, are notorious, absolutely notorious for having rocker panel rust. Because the channels, the water channels that, you know, drain the water that gets between the sunroof and the car go through the pinch welds. And those pinch welds fold right, you know, the drains in the pinch welds are essentially right where the jack points are on the car. And so you jack the car up once and it folds that little, you know, it folds the little tab over, and you essentially clog your, the drain. So water just builds up in the rockers and it just rusts them out to no end. But thankfully, my friend's car has essentially no rocker rust because somebody had taken good care of it. And so he could still probably get a decent chunk of change out of that car purely for that reason, if nothing else. Like if he doesn't want to, you know, either put another new engine in it or rebuild the engine that's already in there. So, yeah, hopefully he can figure out what he's doing with that, and hopefully that'll be all good to go soon. Basically 5 months he's been without a car. He's been borrowing his brother's and his mom's car to get to and from work. Yeah, but then in terms of my own transportation, I currently have 2 vehicles. I've got a 2004 Nissan Frontier, and that runs and drives, but it won't pass an inspection yet. And then I've also got a 1990 VX800, which was my daily. You know, I wish I had gotten some video with it, because it was a cool bike. But that's about as much credit as I can give it. It just looks cool. It was a complete piece of crap. You know, I think I bought it for $500. It was originally listed for $700. Then the guy set it on fire while I was standing there, you know, to buy it. And so I talked him down to $500 for it, because it didn't actually do any damage, but, you know, just, you know, like, you set the bike on fire, knock some money off. So he did. As for actually owning the motorcycle, and like riding it and everything, it was a decent daily vehicle. There's just so little you can do to modify it, and it's such a niche bike that nobody wants, because it's, you know, it was only produced for 3 years. It's essentially the predecessor to the SV, but done absolutely horribly, so nobody really wanted it. You know, because the SV is like kind of like the multi-tool of bikes. You know, it does everything that you need it to. Yeah, so the VX is like essentially the SV's older brother that nobody loves, as, you know, to put it one way. So I didn't really know that going into the deal, but, you know, once I bought it, I was like, man, like, this thing looks cool, and it's you know, it's a bike, but geez, like, you can't do anything with this. Like, it's shaft driven, so you can't change sprockets out. You know, you can't. I was looking at ECUs for the VX800 because mine burned out one of them, and it was like $100 for like a used ECU. And then I was looking at ECUs for the VS 800, and it was like $20 for a brand new aftermarket one. And I was like, I wonder if I can just, throw a VS. I wonder if I can just throw a VS ECU in. And I tried, and it just didn't work because of the cam profiling being so different. It just wouldn't even start. I was out riding, and I had just done some exhaust work to it, and I had to do some carb work because the somebody had put the wrong needle in, and so I basically just raised the needle, even though it was like the wrong taper and everything. I just raised the needle so that way it would at least run, and it ran like absolute crap, but it ran. And so I just kind of rode it like that. And then as I was riding one day, I was coming home from work, and there was me and this like Chrysler 300 or something, and we were doing like fast but not illegal speeds. Like we were just accelerating fast basically, and then just staying around the speed limit. But we were I was accelerating one time, and it starts bogging down, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. I wonder if the carbs got clogged or something. Then it started knocking, and I was like, oh, this is great. So I grabbed the clutch and was pulling over. Literally the millisecond after I grabbed the clutch, there was a clunk, and then, and I was like, oh no, I know what happened. And sure enough, it had completely thrown a connecting rod. Like, when I say it had thrown a connecting rod, I mean it had thrown a connecting rod. Both sides of the connecting rod were just disconnected. Like the bottom of the rod, like the rod cap had snapped, so there's a chunk missing out of the rod cap. And then up by the wrist pin, it had just snapped off part of the piston. And so, the rod was just kind of hanging around inside the engine. And, there was a big old chunk missing out of the engine. It actually broke the front engine mount completely off. And I was like, that's brutal. So, yeah, it's going to need a new engine if I want to keep riding it. I'm debating in the future. I'm probably just going to keep it around as like a project bike for now. But in the future, I'm debating just putting a whole new engine in it, like just buy one off of eBay. I might go through and, tear that one down a little bit and, just make sure that that's a solid engine, put it all back together, put it in the bike, and then just sell the bike. Or I might not even tear it down if I'm just going to sell it. I might just throw an engine in there, get it to run, and then sell it for cheap, so in that way, it's not the end of the world if it blows up on the next owner. But, yeah, it's an interesting bike. It's a 45-degree V-twin with a 45-degree offset on the crank, so it kind of runs like a 90-degree V, and it uses a big bang firing order, which is essentially where it's fire, stroke, stroke, fire on the other cylinder, and then 5 strokes, and then it repeats that cycle. So it's the weirdest thing ever, but it sounded really good, and I'll add a little clip of it running. But yeah, it was a very curious bike. It was also shaft driven, and it was dual carb setup on a 45-degree V-twin. So, one of the carbs was in front of the rear cylinder, and one of the carbs was behind the rear cylinder. And then it had a synchronizing cable that ran between the two. So you had to set idle synchronization as well, with the cable, as well as like higher end synchronization with the throttle cables themselves. It was the weirdest design ever, but I mean, it worked, so that's why I've commandeered my friend's R3, because, you know, this is gonna be what I'm riding for the next week. I've already been borrowing it for a week, so I'll have borrowed it for 2 weeks, but this coming weekend, I am going to be flying out to Wisconsin to pick up a bike and ride it all the way home. And if I don't ride it, or if I can't finish riding it all the way home, I'm just going to rent a truck and then load it in the back of the truck and ride it the rest of the way. And then that'll be that, and I'll be good to go. I'm so looking forward to that. Not really. It's going to be a long trip, but the bike I'm getting is a SCR 950, and the friend that's selling it to me is selling it for $2,200. So, you know, $2,200, and it's in like really good condition. It's only been dropped once, and at relatively low speeds from what I could see. And if it wasn't at relatively low speeds, regardless, it didn't do like any damage other than the bar end and a saddlebag. And you know, well, the blinker got knocked off too, but you know, that's all like easy cosmetic stuff to replace. And so, you know, my friend, she took it into the shop and she's getting all that work done, and then she's just going to sell it to me for $2,200. So it's essentially going to be like a perfectly like running and riding bike for $2,200. Not only that, it's a 2017 SCR 950, which are like notoriously reliable bikes. So, you know, I'm actually making steps up in the world. I'm actually, you know, making good financial decisions. This will be the first probably good financial decision I've ever made in my entire life, but I'm excited for it. I also need to do a water pump and a clutch on this R3 soon. While I was doing the recall work on it, one of the things that was required was a shift spring, or the spring for the shift shaft. What could happen is the spring would break, and then it would just lose a little piece of spring metal directly into your transmission and engine. So, you know, I was like, yeah, we're gonna get that done. But while I was in there, you're not supposed to take off the water pump to do it, but I did anyways. But I took the cover off. I was looking at the impeller. There's supposed to be six impeller blades, and I was looking at it and I was like, there's only 5 there. That's not right. So yeah, it needs a new water pump impeller. So I'm just gonna, you know, get an aftermarket or like a used eBay one. My thought process there is, I'm pretty sure the reason that it, you know, that the impeller broke is because when I was draining the coolant, a bunch of like little pebbles like came out of the cooling system, and I was like, oh, that's fantastic. So I suspect that somebody filled it up with river water at one point, probably because they, you know, overheated or broke down or something. If I had to guess, one of the recalls was for an upper radiator hose. If I had to guess, that upper radiator hose got that hole in it that, you know, the recall was for, and they broke down somewhere, so they just filled it up with river water and rode it home. And then it looked like they did flush it out though, because it had like relatively new coolant in it, and you know, there wasn't any rust or anything going on. There was just debris in the cooling system. It was interesting. But I went ahead and, you know, drained all the coolant out and got as much of the debris out as I could without actually doing a proper flush. And then once I replace the water pump, I'm actually going to do like a legit flush of the cooling system. Anyways, I think that'll probably be enough for this episode. Thank you so much for, you know, watching my videos. Yeah, I mean, hopefully you come back if you're new, and if you're not new, well, I'm sorry for the long time since I've posted. I've been so busy with just life has been so crazy. But yeah, I'm doing quite a bit better now myself, and you know, hopefully, I'll make it a habit to, post more often once I get this new bike. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.